there's so many things that you can kind of get stuck in the weeds with in terms of how do you make data informed decisions. And kind of just to clarify, we say data informed. Many people say data driven, but I like to go to the extreme. Data driven to me means you're blindly following the data. You're not using your human intuition. So the most exaggerated example is the urban myth that someone drives off a cliff and they ask them why, and they say, well, the GPS told me to. That's data driven. Data informed is, well, I stopped because there's a cliff. I'd probably die. That's not a good thing. That's data informed. So we thought it was a good idea to come up with this structured approach that's two things. It's systematic and it's systemic. And so systemic means we're thinking about the whole organization. It's not just the opposite of that is working in a silo. So I fix my process. It breaks the rest of the org, but I don't care. Systemic is let's look at it in balance. And systematic means it's repeatable so that we can follow it every time. And the process goes through the stages of taking data and making the decision. So it starts with what is the question or the problem I'm trying to solve? And a lot of times, it won't go too deep, but a lot of times the challenge is we get a question that is not a good question to answer. It's like, how are my sales doing? I don't know. What does good look like compared to when? What demographics? So you kind of have to learn the art of questioning. And that's something we don't really do too well, is push back on our bosses, whoever that ask us those questions. You have to ask the right question. You have to categorize, as we talked earlier. Is this a decision that's strategic that we can't go back from? Or is this a quick decision, like what do I have for lunch, where I can use some of that fast twitch approach? Then we have to go to the acquire and find the right data that's going to help us answer that. And that's where we really have to think systemically. What are the drivers of this outcome? So the example I gave was sales revenue. We have to look at marketing campaigns. We have to look at what is our pipeline. We have to look at what our close rate is. All of these data points need to be thought of systemically. And then we need the data to be in the right form and make it analytics ready. Then we go into analyze, where it's, okay, let's look at those dashboards. And a lot of people will use dashboards to say, yeah, my sales are down. Well, that's great, but that's not helping you. You don't know why they're down, and you don't know what to do because of it. So it's going from descriptive all the way into diagnostic, which is root cause analysis. Oh, it's down because we changed our discounting policy. We no longer need approvals, and now everyone's discounting 70%. Well, then our action there is, let's change the discount policy. It has nothing to do with marketing at that point. So we go through the different levels of analytics. You come up with an insight. You come up with the result of an inferential statistic, like you mentioned, a sample set, or you have a confidence interval. Then what you have to do is think and challenge. So in the apply step, it's, when could this number be misleading? What am I not thinking about? Did I get a diverse perspective? Am I mitigating that I might have confirmation bias? What are my assumptions I'm not thinking? I'm going through them quick, but there's a list and it's prescriptive. And then you try to say, okay, here's my answer. I've gone through everything. Here's my answer. Now, if this is just for me, I'm done. If it's for an organization, I have to go and communicate it. And a lot of times what fails is it's a big change management. So if your boss says, we're going to pivot and go from A to B, you need to educate them in data. What's in it for me? Why are you doing this? So it goes through the process of how much evidence do we show, how much information, how much best practices, identifying the stakeholders. And then the last thing is the assess phase, where if it's going to be one of those fast twitch where we can fall, we just want to learn from it, but we need a process to learn from it. What went wrong? What went right? How does that change my mental model? And then let's go back to the ask phase and see if we have to iterate through it again. And so it gives you this overarching approach where you can go through the different steps, make a better data-informed decision, and then iterate through it as needed after you keep assessing.